Hi everyone, I hope you're having a great weekend. Thanks again for stopping by my video blog titled Up, Down, and Sideways, The Many Directions of Bipolar Disorder. Last week I talked a little bit about what is bipolar disorder and shared a little bit of my personal experiences with it. And today what I want to do is break it down and talk about mania. Mania is associated with bipolar disorder along with depression. And my first manic episode at the age of 19 is actually what led me into checking myself into the psychiatric hospital at the age of 19. So what I'll do is I'll share my personal experience and then move into what are the signs and symptoms of mania. And it's important to know what these signs and symptoms are, not only for people that are diagnosed with bipolar disorder, but also for their friends and family members, so that if you do notice your loved one or your friend slipping into some of these symptoms or exhibiting some of these symptoms, you can talk to them about it and try to get them some help and support so that they can treat it before it goes into a full-blown manic episode. So I'll start off with a little bit about my experience. So at the age of 19, I was in college. It was around Christmas time. I was finishing up my finals and I was working on an article for my journalism class, and my sleep patterns got very distorted. I was staying up all night working on this article. I was drinking so much caffeine, coffee all night long, and that's pretty much what I think threw me into the manic episode. So at this time, I was finishing finals and I booked a flight at the last minute, I think the day before, to go visit my friend Amanda in Chicago. And I was so excited to see her. And as I was flying, there, and even a few days prior, I was just thinking about where I wanted my life to go and what I wanted to do. And I was convinced that I was put here on earth to become the next Katie Couric. And everything that I did at that time was solely focused on the steps it would need to take to become Katie Couric. So when I got to Chicago, I was thinking, okay, what do I need to do now so that I can apply for an internship in New York City and take the steps necessary to become Katie Couric? So my first thought was, I need a whole new wardrobe, because if I'm going to move to New York City, which is much different than Omaha, Nebraska, I need to look the part. So the first thing I did was took a taxi to the mall and thought, okay, I need a really good suit, so when I go on these interviews, I'm going to look sharp. So I went to Marshall Fields and looked around and saw something called St. John's, which I had never heard of. The sales lady helped me, and long story short, I walked away with a $1,300 suit that I charged on a credit card that I definitely had no business purchasing because I did not have any money. So that was my first purchase. Luckily, my friend Amanda convinced me to take it back, thank God, because I did not need that suit. But then I thought, okay, well, if I take back the suit, I need other clothes. So Express is much more affordable. So I spent 8 hours at Express. I had my own personal shopper, and I ended up charging $4,500 worth of clothes. So I then had my new wardrobe, and then now I needed new sunglasses. I got new luggage from Coach. I bought a taser gun because if I was going to live in New York City, I needed to protect myself. So as you can see, I was just spending so much money, excessive spending. I had grandiose thoughts. I thought I was going to change the world and was on the way to becoming Katie Couric. And honestly, during that time, it was so great because I was euphoric and I felt so good and I felt good about myself. And I thought, I'm going to change the world and help others, which was helping others was always the underlining theme of my manic episodes that I've had. So, I was spending all this money, and at the time, my friend Amanda and everyone that I was talking to on the phone, sharing what I wanted to do and calling my aunt in New York City, and they were all becoming extremely worried about me because I've always been very talkative and very outgoing and ambitious, but this had gone to an extreme level. So, I knew that there was something going on, and my friends and family, although they were very supportive of me, I felt like I needed to talk to somebody else because here I was in this awesome time in my life, getting ready to move to New York City, and I was applying to internships and doing all these things for my future that I needed to talk to somebody that was a little bit more objective and not biased. So that's what led me into, checking myself into the hospital. And, I was so glad that I did that, because if, I wouldn't have, I can just only imagine what could have happened to me. So that's the one thing that I really want to, get across, is that it is okay to ask for help. And, going through things alone is never fun. And I know that not everyone has a support system, but there's groups you can go to, and, counselors that you can see. And without, my medication and my counseling and friends and my psychiatrist, I wouldn't be doing as well as I am today without them. So again, it is okay to ask for help. It is okay to talk about it, and it is okay to, be proud of who you are. So that's just a little bit about my manic episode. Looking back at it, I can't believe some of the things that I was writing. I went through it. Luckily, I saved all of this from this time when I was in the hospital, and right before, I remember sitting in my room on my computer right before I left for Chicago. And I actually wrote out 6 signs here. You can't really read it. It says signs that I need to be the next Katie Couric. And I list 7 signs that I was convinced happened to me, because, God was speaking to me, and this was the signs that I needed to take the plunge, move to New York City, get this internship, and become Katie Couric. So, I'm very thankful that I saved some of this stuff, because looking back, it is just so eye-opening to see where I was and what I was thinking, and now look at where I am today. I think the moral of that story is that, here I was, having a huge manic episode at the age of 19. 11 years later, although I have had a lot of bumps in the road, I've been able to educate myself, take control of bipolar disorder, realize that I do need medication, that I can't be doing this well without it, knowing that it is helpful to see a counselor. It's okay to talk to your friends and family, and I should be proud of who I am, and I should be proud that I have bipolar disorder, because it makes me who I am today. So there's a little bit about my personal experiences. What I want to do now is I went to the Mayo Clinic's website and just printed out just a little bit more about bipolar disorder. And I'm just going to read, these are kind of the telltale signs of a manic episode, and these are the symptoms to look out for. And the majority of these that I'll read to you, I experienced during my manic episode. So the first one is euphoria. So grandiose thinking, inflated self-esteem, poor judgment, rapid speech, racing thoughts, aggressive behavior, agitation or irritation, increased physical activity, risky behavior, spending sprees or unwise financial choices, increased drive to perform or achieve goals, increased sex drive, decreased need for sleep, easily distracted, careless or dangerous use of drugs or alcohol, frequent absences from work or school, delusions or a break from reality, psychosis, poor performance at work or school. So those are the symptoms to be on the lookout for. Again, many of those can be very detrimental. As you can see, I spent, I think it was close to $6,000 in 5 days. Luckily, my family and friends were able to help me return all of those purchases. Thank God, because that would have taken me years to pay off. But the good news is that you can catch it, and you can catch it before it goes into a full-blown manic episode. So I'd like to hear from you. I'd like to hear from those of you that have bipolar disorder, or friends and family. If you start noticing that you're maybe showing some of these signs, what do you do to prevent going into a manic episode? Do you look at your sleep patterns? Do you make sure you're taking the right medication? Do you call your doctor? I'd love to hear from you, just to hear how you're able to manage bipolar disorder and preventing a manic episode from occurring. So thank you so much for stopping by my blog. Next week, I'm going to transition into depression. I'll share my experiences with depression, and then again, I will talk about the signs and symptoms to look for. I will also post the link below to the Mayo Clinic's website, where I gathered the signs and symptoms. And thank you again, and I look forward to talking to you again next weekend about depression and the signs and symptoms. Thank you. I hope you guys have a great week. Talk to you again next weekend. Take care.